All right, Algebra 2, solving absolute value equations. All right, so this is a unit that historically students have struggled with a lot. So please make sure you're paying attention to this first part here. If these easy ones don't make sense, the harder ones are not going to make any sense either. So, and if you are struggling with this, please meet me early on in the week with a Google Meet so we can figure this out. Okay. All right, so we are going to look at just the basics of absolute value here. So absolute value of a number is the distance the number is from 0 on a number line. Okay, and the key word here is distance, okay? Because distance is always positive, okay? Right? If you drive in reverse, you're not going negative distance, right? You're still going distance. Okay, so if we look here, if we do a number line, we have -3 and +3. They're the same distance from 0. Okay, so distance is always positive, which means absolute value is always positive. So the absolute value of -3 is +3. Okay, so if we have a problem like this, we have solve what could these values of x be? Okay, well, we just mentioned that inside here could be -3. We also know that, +3 is the same distance from 0 as well. So this could also be +3. Okay, another way to write this would be x is equal to plus or minus 3. All right, so what about this scenario here? Solve the absolute value of x equaling -3. Okay, hopefully that made you puzzled a little bit. That can't happen, right? So there's no number that can come out of the absolute value bars as a negative. So this answer would be no solution. Okay, so absolute value can never be negative, can never be a negative number. Okay, all right, so solving absolute value equations. All right, so if these letters and if this doesn't make sense, we'll do a example with some numbers, but hopefully it makes sense to you. So let A, B, and C be constants. Okay, so they're just regular old numbers, and C is greater than 0. So, right, it can't be a negative number, right? Otherwise, it'd be no solution. Okay, so if this, then AX plus B could equal C, or AX plus B could equal -C. Okay, so write that down. Hopefully it makes sense. Well, basically what that means is that inside these absolute value bars, we could either get a C in there or a -C, and it would come out +C, right? Just like here, right? Absolutely, right? If -3 came out as +3 or +3 can come out as +3, okay? So if that doesn't make sense, let's do an example here. So if we have the absolute value of 2x minus 1, okay, the absolute value of this is equal to 17, okay? So what that means, let me rewrite that, 1, 7. All right, so if this is true, then that means that inside here could either simplify down to 17 or to -17, right? Because both of these numbers would come out as positive 17. Okay, so what that means is we remove the absolute value bars and we write out two equations. 2x minus 1 is equal to 17, or 2x minus 1 is equal to -17. Okay, because inside these absolute value bars, if we equal 17 or -17, it will come out positive. Okay, that does not make sense. Please meet with me on a Google Meet. All right, so I've got some Sully's super steps for solving absolute value equations. So this will help you if you need some steps in order to solve these equations. So number one is move everything outside the absolute value bars. Okay, move. Ooh, I'm going to type this up because I write terribly. Okay, there we go. So, number one, move everything outside the absolute value bars. Okay, so if there's anything outside of the absolute value bar, so if we look at number one, there is nothing outside of these absolute value bars on this side or this side. But for number two, there is, and number three, there is, right? We would have to get this negative, or sorry, this 1/3 out of here, and we'd have to get this -9 out of here. Okay, so if there's anything outside of the absolute bars, get rid of them, and then set whatever is inside the absolute value bars equal to the number and its opposite. Okay, so let me add a step here. I'm going to add like step 1.5. Step 1.5 would be, determine if there is a solution. Okay. There is a solution. Okay, so that's like step 1.5. So that just basically means is the number outside. Here, let's just show it an example. So if we have something like this, there's going to be a solution. Okay, something like this, no solution. Okay, so stop before you move on to number two. You don't want to start doing all this work and realize, oh, the answer was no solution. I didn't have to move anymore. Okay, so that's like step 1.5. All right, then after we set whatever is inside the absolute value bars to the number and its opposite, then we're going to solve both equations. Okay, so let's just start looking at these and following our steps here. Okay, so number one, so following the first step, move everything outside the absolute value bars. There isn't anything on the outside of these absolute value bars, so we can move on to step 1.5. Is there going to be a solution? Yes, there is, because this is positive. Okay, so we can move on to step 2. Set the equation. So we're going to set whatever's inside the equation equal to the number and its opposite. Okay, so that just means we're going to do 11/4 r is equal to 77/12, or 11/4 r is equal to -77/12. Okay, and now we just solve these two equations. And if you're not sure on how to get rid of this fraction here, remember we always want to get this coefficient or this number in front of the variable or the letter equal to 1. So how we can do that is just by multiplying by the reciprocal, right? These would all just cancel out, and then you'd just be left with r. Okay, and if you do it to one side, you got to do it to the other side. So we're going to multiply this side as well. Okay, so we go ahead and multiply this out, and we should get 7/3. Feel free to use a calculator on that if you need to. That's fine. All right, and next one. So we're going to solve it the exact same way. We're going to multiply by 4/11, and we're going to this will all cancel out. And then on this side, it's going to be the same answer, only we have a negative number times 4/11, which is equal to -7/3. Okay, so those are my two options for r. You could certainly write r is equal to plus or minus 3, or 7/3. All right, number two. Number two, we actually have stuff outside the absolute value bar, so let's get rid of those first. So just like we did before, if I want to get rid of this, I want to just multiply by the reciprocal, which would be 3/1. Okay, right, this would cancel out, and this would be equal to 1, so essentially it's not even there. Okay, and then if I multiply by 3 on this side, I have to multiply by 3 on this side. And I'm left with the absolute value of x plus 2 is equal to 18. Okay, now we move on to step 2, or actually 1.5. Is there going to be a solution? Yes, because this is positive, So there will be a solution. Now we're going to set up two equations. X plus 2 is equal to 18, and x plus 2 is equal to negative 18. And then we solve. And just so you know, it's not always just going to be a plus or minus answer. We will get different numbers, as you'll see here. So we need to just isolate x, so I need to do the inverse operation of adding 2. So I need to subtract 2 on both sides, and I'm left with x is equal to 16. And then I do the same thing over here, subtract 2, I'm left with x is equal to negative 20. So there are my two options for x. All right, moving on to number 3. Number 3, we have the absolute value of 2x minus 9 is equal to negative 13. So the step 1 is move everything outside the absolute value bars. So I need to get rid of this negative 9. So I need to add 9, and this side it cancels out. I'm left with the absolute value of 2x is equal to negative 4. Now I move on to step 1.5, which is determine if there will be a solution. Well, we've got absolute value equaling a negative number. This is not possible, so we put no solution, and we're done with this problem. Okay? All right, moving on. Number 4. Step 1 already done for us. Nothing on the outside of the absolute value bars. 1.5, is there a solution? Yes, this is positive, so we can just set up two equations. 5 minus 2x is equal to 15, and 5 minus 2x is equal to negative 15. All right, so now we're going to solve these the same way, right? We're going to subtract 5 on both sides, or on all sides. Maybe I should do this one at a time. 5 minus 5, that goes away. Drop down this negative 2x. 15 minus 5 is 10. And now we just want to divide by the exact same coefficient. We would divide by negative 2. I do it to one side, I got to do it to the other. So I'm left with x is equal to negative 5. And on this side here, 5 minus 5 goes away. Negative 2x, we just drop down the equal sign. Negative 15 minus 20, we're going to get more negative and get negative 20. Divide by negative 2, divide by negative 2, and we get x is equal to positive 10. So there's my two answers for x. All right. Okay, one more for this video, and then we'll be all done. So number 5, first thing we need to do is move everything outside the absolute value bars. So get rid of this negative 3. I do so by adding 3. So I'm left with 3b plus 5, absolute value, is equal to 7. Step 1.5, determine if there's going to be a solution. Yes, there is, because this is positive. So now basically I just need to set up two equations equal to the number and its opposite. The opposite just being the negative number. So we got 3b plus 5 is equal to 7, and 3b plus 5 is equal to negative 7. All right, and we solve them the same way. Subtract 5, 3b is equal to 2. And let's see, we divide by 3, we get b is equal to 2/3. Or on this one here, we got same thing, subtract 5, we get 3b is equal to negative 12. Divide by 3, and we get b is equal to negative 4. So there are my two options for b. We got 2/3 or negative 4. All right, I think we will stop here for today. Why don't you guys give problems 1 through, suppose you could do 1 through 10 today. All right.